What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of Player Ratings as Spurs got dumped out the FA Cup last night at the hands of Sheffield United in a long trip up and down to Bramall Lane yesterday, where, you know, the effort was definitely put in by the fans last night, but was it put in by the players? Let's go and take a look at our player ratings, starting off with Fraser Forster. 4s all round for Fraser. And look, they had one shot on target the whole game, which was the goal. I think that he definitely should have done better with the goal. Yes, maybe he was unsighted, but still, you can't get beaten at your near post like that. It wasn't even a great shot. I think apart from that, I mean, he was hardly called upon, to be fair.
Yeah, he didn't have too much to do, but in my opinion, I think he reacted very late to that goal. I know that, you know, you can argue there's a few players in front of him, but he gets a big foot to it, and I just think the reactions are really late. I think most keepers in the Premier League will save it, either with their feet or they collapse their body, and the fact he allowed it to sneak into the near post is what counts, and so it was poor.
Yeah. Next up, Davinson Sanchez, 2s all round from us in a very terrible display from Sanchez yesterday. And I mean, it's just consistent now with Davinson. I mean, in the majority of big screw-ups that Spurs have had in the last 5 games, he's pretty much played in every single one of them, bar 1 or 2. But it's just not good enough, and he's getting gradually worse year on year out. Davinson, it's just time to let him go, whether it be for really cheap or whatever it is. Like, you're not going to get much money from him anyway, with the form that he's shown over the couple of years. But on this game specifically, he was just making stupid, unforced errors. There was one moment the ball just came to him and he just like slipped up over nothing, and
tackled by air, they
literally
said.
Tackled by air. That was literally the definition of what you saw on the pitch yesterday. Obviously, he was one of the defenders culpable for the goal as well yesterday, and it was just a tragic display. I mean, I don't really want to talk about it too much.
and not only that as well, I felt like there were moments when Tottenham as well were actually throwing a bit of caution to the wind and getting players forward, and we asked basically Sanchez to just stick on Billy Sharp, and when Sheffield United wanted to counter or get the ball themselves, like asked Sanchez to dominate him and just win the ball back quickly so Spurs can retain the pressure. But he kept fouling him in those situations. I think he made 2 or 3 fouls, like relieved the pressure for Sheffield United and allowed them to get players up the pitch and stuff like that. And it was like, even those kind of things he couldn't get right. That doesn't even add to his unbelievable lack of quality on the ball, and which we know, and then his role in the goal as well. I just thought it was an atrocious display. If there's any evidence of how unfit he is to be at Tottenham, I think this was like case in point. Like, he just couldn't do anything right in this game.
Eric Dyer up next. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Again, had his hand in the goal yesterday. Turned his back to Ndai when he took his shot. Apart from that, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Sheffield United didn't really pressure us too much. But I thought Eric Dyer could have done a lot more in terms of ball playing ability from the back, starting attacks from the back, which didn't seem to happen. He moved over to the right of the back 3 towards the end of the game, and nothing seemed to change. So poor display. I
didn't have too many problems with Dyer specifically. I actually thought his passing was all right for the most part. I thought he was actually pretty aerially dominant, which was decent. But yeah, I think his role for the goal, I think he was culpable, but he was probably the least culpable of about 4 players whose role in that goal probably were more culpable than he was. But yeah, his attempt at blocking that shot wasn't great. He kind of didn't throw his body at it. He kind of throws a leg at it and it goes through his legs, and so that was a poor moment. I obviously didn't do anything brilliant. I did think defensively what he had to do in general, he did. So I don't have too many big issues, but his role in the goal is what let him down.
Ben Davis up next. 4s all round from us. I mean, I thought defensively pretty much did what was asked for him throughout the day, but I thought what let him down was his passing on the day. I thought every time he got the ball, he seemed to lose it, which was really disappointing to me. I thought from a defensive standpoint, he was probably our best defender on the day, but it's not saying much. Yeah, and not really much else to say.
Yeah, I think his direct passing into the likes of Richarlison and Kane were not up to scratch. He kept losing it a lot. Wasn't really helping out Perisic too much in the forward areas either. Defensively didn't have too much to do, so not a great day from Davis, who's been in good form. So in fact, his worst performances have been left centre back now, interestingly enough.
Yeah, crazy. Next up, Pedro Porro on the right wing back. 4s all round from us, and you know, we're so excited every time this guy gets put in the lineup, and I feel for him a little bit because he's started 2 games now, one at Leicester, one at Sheffield United. At Leicester, he had to deal with Tanganga next to him. And at the Sheffield United, he had to deal with Sanchez next to him. We need to see him alongside Cuti Romero because I think that's when you're going to see the best Porro, where he doesn't have to be asked to be doing that much defending work as much as he has to do with Sanchez and Tanganga next to him. And I thought the early stages of the game, he looked really shaky defensively. You saw he was getting put under a bit of pressure. I thought he grew into the game. You saw his confidence growing a little bit where he got forward, managed to take a shot. And as he was growing in the game, I felt he got taken off. And obviously the goal, he was culpable massively for the goal.
Yeah, I have to say that. You can't no getting away from it. It's a second poor performance in a row from Porro, although slight improvement from the Leicester game, although he didn't have someone like Harvey Barnes to deal with, to his credit, to his bit of luck. So obviously he wasn't going to be as much exposed as he was in that game. But in this one, early doors, he was giving the ball away, losing the ball in fairly dangerous areas, but he did improve on that. And as you say, I thought he was really getting involved on the right-hand side just before we took him off. He had that chance where he got in behind and then cut inside on his left foot and put it over, and then he had a shot on his right foot as well, which went across the face of the goal and went wide and looked like he was starting to get more involved. And then that moment with the goal happened. I thought was really poor. He got too easily turned, and then Ndiaye does a second turn, which I think Porro could really get round and help defend that, and instead he gives basically the player off to Sanchez, and Sanchez does his best like kind of what was that challenge, the mannequin challenge, basically. That's what Sanchez was doing for that goal. So I thought he was really poor for the goal, so obviously he'll be marked down for that, and I do think he's really going to have to get up to speed defensively as soon as possible, because it's clearly an area of his game which he needs big improvement. I did think there were signs defensively, though, that he could really contribute, and it's still a few good things technically, but yeah, again, another poor display, unfortunately.
Yeah. Next up is Pierre-Emile Højbjerg in the midfield. 4s all round from us, and after the really good displays that we have seen from him in the last couple of games, this one was not good by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I thought he was trying hard, to be fair, in the middle of the park, but the quality was just so low, to be fair. And for that goal, I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. I mean, I know what he's doing. He's trying not to give away a penalty, but you've got to be stronger than that. You can't just jump out of the way of a player coming through in the box. It's just, you can't do that. Yeah,
and there are a few moments which frustrated me, and that was probably the main one. He knows that if he throws a leg at the player and he doesn't get any of the ball, with the way Ndiaye twisted away from him, he was in danger of giving away a penalty. So I understand the pulling out the challenge, but to just put your hands up and kind of just stop was a bit weird. I think he should have just followed the run in and really trying to help Sanchez prevent the shot, as opposed to just stopping and allowing the player to run off him. I thought on the ball he was all right. His passing going forward was okay. Well, I think in terms of approach play, didn't really get any good through balls and stuff. But there was one great ball from Højbjerg into Porro in behind, which created a good chance. But apart from that, obviously he gets really marked down for the goal, and that was the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to say like how many players were actually culpable for that goal.
Yeah, I know, because he
nuts.
drilled past like 3 of them.
Nuts.
And then...
I mean, like, how many players? You got Porro, you had Davinson Sanchez, you had Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Fraser Forster, and Eric Dyer. 5 players.
Yeah, couldn't deal with one
championship player.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke. But let's move on to Pape Matar. 5s all round. I think the word to describe his display yesterday was probably tidy. I don't think he did anything wrong during the game. I don't think he did too much exceptionally right either, or exceptionally good, but I think he just kept things tidy and ticking along.
Yeah, he was okay. I didn't see too much when it comes from, like, against Milan. He seemed a bit more confident on the ball than he was in this game. Off the ball, he did get a yellow card just before coming off as well, which wasn't a great challenge from him. And I actually think Skip was a bit better than him when he came on as well. But again, it was, look, he's a young player in this kind of team. You're gonna have a few inconsistent performances, but wasn't up to the levels of Milan. But I guess when he's one of the younger players on the team, it's not a surprise when he's surrounded by so many underperforming players.
Next up, Ivan Perisic. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. And I was hearing actually in the first half there was a challenge on Ivan Perisic, studs up. That was supposed to be a red, and obviously there was no VAR. I haven't seen it again, but have you seen that again?
I've seen a picture of it. I haven't seen the video. The picture doesn't look great, but then it's hard to tell from pictures.
Yeah, fair enough. But anyway, with Ivan Perisic's performance yesterday, I think it's been pretty much more of the same, to be honest, with Ivan Perisic, what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. He was getting in really good positions on that left-hand side, but his crossing was really poor, uncharacteristically poor. But in the last few games, that's what we've been accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, I thought he had 11 crosses on the day, one successful cross, which tells the story of his delivery, unfortunately, for Perisic. There was one moment especially, I think he had actually time and space on the left-hand side, really in behind, like a really good position, and he had Kane and Son, I think, and Lucas as well, waiting in the box, and he just completely overhits it, and I think like Son was completely free at the near post, and he just couldn't find him, and that really frustrated me. I did think, when it comes to like attacking, he was probably our most consistent threat throughout the game. He did have a couple of headers as well, which didn't really test the keeper, but he did get them on target. But he's got to improve his delivery if he's going to find his way back in this team, because that's where he really earns his money. I did think defensively didn't get too exposed, but he didn't have too much defending to do either.
Yeah. Next up, Lucas Moura. 5 from Sim, 6 from me. In my opinion, Spurs' best player on the day. Didn't understand the decision to take him off. When I say best player, it's not saying much because the rest of the team were that bad. But with what Lucas did well on the day, I thought he was the only one really trying to take the game to them. He was getting the ball in those deep spaces in the middle of the park and really trying to drive at them, taking on men. But it's the same old problem with Lucas Moura, isn't it? He can do that. He can take it past a few men, but it's what happens after that, which is the problem for Lucas. And it was more of the same. I thought low quality at the end of his runs. But having said that, he was the one trying the hardest on the pitch, and he was the only one really trying to take the game to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new from Lucas, let's be honest. I thought he was average on the day, but average, sadly for us, was better than our other players, which is ridiculous to say. He attempted seven dribbles and completed 4 of them. That tells a story of how he was able to. He was the only forward player who was actually able to get the ball and make it stick and not just lose it very easily. But again, as always is Lucas, his problem is his decision making. Once he gets past a player or two, what he does with it is the big problem. I don't think he created any chances. When it comes to key passes, it says he had 3 key passes here, so I guess he was able to create a few things. But when it comes to shots on goal, getting in real difficult interesting situations, wasn't able to really impact the game in that sense. But he was the only one of the front line actually looking to take people on and keep the ball, as opposed to just giving it away easily and not making the Sheffield United defence think. So that was positive, but still, it's not like it convinced me he has to start playing from the start.
Yeah. Next up, Richarlison. 3s all round from us. Started in his favoured number 9 position in the game, and he was worse than what he is at left wing, worse than what he was at right wing. I mean, it was just a terrible display from Richarlison, to be honest. Anytime he got it in a shooting position, it was absolutely awful. I just remember one shot going nearly next to the corner flag, which was absolutely tragic. He couldn't hold up the ball at all, couldn't really knit the play together at all. I mean, couldn't do anything, couldn't bring others into play. I mean, it was just a really bad display.
Yeah, and I think you see the value in having someone like Kane, who just makes it look so effortless, the way he's able to back in defenders and hold possession and then turn and bring other players into play, because Richarlison just wasn't able to do that even once, let alone Kane does that 5, 6, 7 times a game. Makes it look easy. Yeah. And Richarlison wasn't able to retain the ball once, pretty much, in those positions. Occasionally he was able to get a layoff on, but not in a dangerous position. He did have that one chance in behind in the first half, which he smashed over the bar from a tight angle. Never really expecting to score from there. And then he had the shot from the edge of the area in the second half, which went near the corner flag, as you say, then the goal. It was a really terrible effort, and I just thought his aggressive. I thought he was bullied off the ball a number of times. I thought his quality when it came to linking up the play wasn't there, and he was hauled off for Harry Kane because he wasn't able to impact the game whatsoever.
Absolutely. Last of the starting 11, Heung-min Son. Sim gives him a 3. I gave him a 4. And look, there was plenty of runs, not too much quality at the end of them. I thought that actually Sonny was actually in a few good positions quite a number of times during the game, and the players failed to pick him out. So, I mean, he was making the right runs, in my opinion, Sonny. But at the end of the day, he couldn't really do anything to impact the game whatsoever.
Yeah, very similar to Richarlison. Wasn't able to really find those positions. I thought he was losing the ball way too easily as well on that left-hand side, more easily than Lucas was. There was one occasion in the second half where he did do a good dribble, but then again he ran out of steam and ended up losing the ball again. So wasn't able to get too many good shots off, which really hurt Sheffield United. And it's another game that passed us by where Sonny is really off form.
And the only substitute we're going to rate today is Harry Kane. Sim gives him a 5. I gave him a 4. Came on for the last 20 minutes at 0-0, where you really thought Kane's going to come on, potentially save the day. And it just wasn't to be. I don't think Kane really had too much of an impact on the game. I don't remember him touching it too many times, apart from that header that went wide that maybe he should have scored. But nothing really in there from Kane, in my opinion.
Yeah, he did miss our best chance. I did think we did look a bit more creative with him on the pitch, but that's not saying much. Didn't really change the game in the way that we'd hoped. And at the end of the day, he had 20 minutes. He couldn't really change the tide. We ended up conceding while he was on the pitch as well. So, poor day. And he looked fuming at the end as well.
Yeah, I think he just came over, did a little quick clap to the fans, just stormed down the tunnel, was the first guy off that pitch yesterday. And now let's move on to Christian Stellini. 3s all round from us in our first loss with Stellini on the sidelines whilst Conte's been out, and it was a really bad one. Really bad one. And I thought that the team selection was all wrong from the start. I was really worried when I saw the team when the defence was called out, and I think I was vindicated to be worried, to be honest. And I thought in-game management was really poor. I'm not sure why he took off Lucas when he did, when he was our most creative player or player looking like to take the game to them, and Porro as well. I just thought the changes were all wrong at the wrong times as well, and maybe Romero should have started. Hindsight's 2020, but I said before the game Romero's got to start this game, and he didn't. And I think if Romero did start, it could have been a very different story. Just that one player.
Yeah, I think how that was his biggest mistake, not starting Romero. I think that coupled with partnering Richarlison with Son and Lucas, 3 players who none of them really like to pass the ball or are very good at passing the ball and being creative and linking with each other, all very much like to dribble and get shots off by themselves rather than linking the play and doing interchanges. I think if you're going to play Richarlison up front, you have to either have Kulusevski next to him or you have to have Richarlison on the left with Kane there as well. I don't think you can play Lucas, Richarlison and Son all together and expect them to link up and do well. And the one bit that did worry me is he didn't really see that, because after the game he was questioned about his selection. He said, well, we had Lucas, Son and Richarlison up front, that should be enough. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know, that's what a worrying response to me, because I don't know how he doesn't see how it was never really going to work with those 3 together. I think, to compound it, starting Sanchez when he was so bad in such an important game was asking for trouble, in my opinion. Those are the 2 things I was angry about most. And then his in-game management, the substitutes didn't really work. And then when he tried to force the issue, just as Porro was getting in the game, he takes him off and puts Kulusevski at wing back, and then he couldn't even impact it. So I thought that was a mistake as well. He kind of hamstrung us, and I just thought he got it all wrong yesterday, unfortunately.
Yeah, he did. And in the interview after the game, in the press conference, he was bemoaning the mentality of the team, and he was saying that maybe, not in these words he said it, but he was saying that maybe the team thought it was just going to be turn up and get 3 points and stuff like that. And that's what it felt like watching it from the pitch. But I'm sorry, it's not just the team that need to look at their mentality. The coaching staff need to drill in that mentality to the team, and they can't expect just to turn up and win a game, whoever it is, whether it be a League 1, League 2, Championship side, Mura, Zagreb, whoever it is. You need to treat every game like it's a big game, and especially this game, as it was probably our biggest game of the season. So I think not only the team have to be marked down on that, but the coaching staff need to be marked down on that as well. So that is our player ratings for the 1-0 loss at Sheffield United yesterday. Let me know in the comment section below what your ratings are, and if you agree with our ratings, like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.